Good morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today, third reading, and not the third reading, the fifth reading, the portion of Chukas, holding on chapter 20, verse number 22. Vayisim b'kadosh, they travel from Kadosh v'yavoyu b'nei Yisrael kol eidah hoida har, and the entire congregation of the children of Israel arrived at hoida har. Now she says, Kulam Shleimim, all of them were perfect, Baruch Hashem, ready to enter the land. There was not amongst them even one that was upon the decree had been pronounced. That previous generation has all passed away. For all those destined to die in the desert had already died, and they were those. There were only those whom it's written, you and all your all alive today. So basically, everybody who has passed away had passed away. And now she says, Har al Gabe Har. This is a mountain on top of a mountain. It's called Har, the mountain of a mountain, appearing like a small apple and a big apple. Although the clouds went in front of them and leveled all the mountains, three of them remained: Mount Sinai for the giving of the Torah, Mount Nebo, which Moshe Rabbeinu was buried, and Har. That's where Aaron HaKohen is buried. Actually, people do go to this place of Aaron till today, and they visit his burial place in the Hoida Har. And God said to Moshe, not in the Mount of Har, which was on the border of the land of Eden. Lame is saying, now she says, this teaches us that because they associate himself with a close relation to the wicked Esav, a breach was made in their accomplishments, and they lost this righteous man. Similar to the prophet, the Yeshafat says, when you join up with Azia, God has breached your accomplishment. Yosef Adon shall gather to his people. Because he's not going to come to land which I'm giving to the Jewish people. Because you defied my word at the water of Meriva dispute. Take on Elazar B'nai and Elazar's son, and go up to the mountain of mountains. Now she says, you should take him with words of solace. Say to him, you are fortunate that you can see your crown given over to your son. That your son will take over. You're going to see it. I'm going to hand over the leadership of Jews to your son. God to take off Aaron his clothes. Take off his garments, the garments of a kohen, gadol, and give it to your son. Aaron Yosef V'meis, and Aaron will be gathered up to his people, and he'll die there. Now she says that he dressed him in the garments of kohen gadol, and then stripped him off of them and gave it to his son in this presence of Aaron. He told him, enter the cave, and he entered. He saw their ready-made bed, a lighted candle. He told him, go on the bed. I got up on it, stretch out your hands. He stretched them out, close your mouth, and he closed it, shut your eyes, and he shut them. And that's the way Aaron passed away. At that moment, Moshe yearned for such a death. This is what it says, and in a way, Aaron, his brother, died. A death that he so desired, to just close his eyes and called the kiss of death, to go to close your eyes at night and to wake up in the morning. Moshe Rabbeinu did what the Abish told him to do. He took up Aaron to them. He went up to the mountain of mountains, laying the Koleid in front of the whole congregation. Ash says, even though this is difficult to him, he didn't haste. What the Abish said to do. And Moshe Rabbeinu took off Aaron his garments. And he dressed Eliezer, his son, in him. And Aaron died there at the mountain of mountains. And Moshe Rabbeinu and Eliezer came down the mountain. And the entire congregation saw that Aaron died. Aaron, they cried over his death, for 30 days. Kol Beis Yisrael, the entire Jewish people cried for his passing. Now she said when they saw Moshe and Eliezer coming down, and Aaron did not come down, they said, "Where's Aaron?" He said to me, "He passed away." He said, "It's possible the one who stood up against the angel of death and stood and stopped the plague can be overpowered by the angel of death. He is serious." Whereupon Moshe Rabbeinu asked for mercy. And with the ministering angels showed him lying on a bed. So they saw that he has passed away. Kol Beis Yisrael. Now she says both the men and the women cried. For Aaron had made pursuit of peace. Aaron brought peace between the love dispute between man and wife. And since he brought Shalom Bayis, it brought about a concept of sadness for the entire Jewish nation, men and women. Ki gavu, because Aaron had Gevea expired. Ki gav Aaron, I say that the one who renders da misa because Aaron died is make a mistake. Unless he also renders vayiru vaschazia, the congregation was seen in the sense of exposed. Our rabbi's statement is key, is used here in the sense because applies according to the measure which states the cloud of glory departed. As Rabbi Avu said, did not say Vayiro, they saw, El Vayiro, they've been exposed. According to this explanation, because is appropriate since it gives the reason for what precedes it. Why were they exposed? Because Aaron had died. What happened was, Vayiru, that Aaron Kohen died, the clouds of glory went away. Because it says it came, the clouds of glory that surrounded the Jewish people was there because of the merit of Aaron. He protected them. When he passed away, the clouds went away and they became exposed, so to say. But because of Aaron had died, the clouds departed. According to Targum, rendering the whole congregation saw, because it's in the Bible only the meaning Asher, which uses the word E, we find im. So it depends the way you word ki, because ki has different ki gava means because, or you can or the word ki is it's either because or when. Okay. Holding on chapter 21, verse number 1. Vayishma Kanani Melech, that's what happens when they were exposed. Vayishma Kanani Melech Arad, Yoshev Negev. The Kanani king of Arad, who lived in the south, heard, he saw that the Jewish people are coming. Derecha saw them through the roots of the spies. Yelachem Yisrael to come, he went out to wage a war with Israel. Vayishbem and Shevi, and Israel, and took from them a captive. She says he heard Vayishma Kanani. What did he heard? That Aaron had died, and the clouds of glory parted. As it stated in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, Amalek was always chastising, whipped for Israel, ready at any time to meet our punishment. Yeshav and Negev, who is the ones who lived in the Negev in the south? So this refers to Amalek. As it says, the Amalekites dwell in the south of the land. They changed their language to speak a language of Canaan, so that the Jews would pray to the Holy One, blessed be He, to deliver Canaanites into His hands. And since they were not Canaanites, their prayers would not affect the Amalekites. But Israel saw they were dressed like Amalekites. They spoke Canaanite's tongue, so they said, we'll pray generally for the success. And it says, deliver us, these people, in our hands. The message of God, the Yakshmeni from Yaakov Shleim, note that these sources, the Amalekites, changed their dress as well, and that version is found also. Rashi says the southern route taken by the spies. It says they went up to the south. Another interpretation, the great guide, the ark, which went ahead of them. And it says it traveled 3 days ahead, and they saw they saw the ark coming. Ishmael and Shevi. She says this is the story. You can look up in the Medrash who was only a single maidservant. And the Jewish people made a vow to God. If you deliver these people in our hands, and we shall consecrate their cities. Now she says, what does it mean? I shall consecrate their spoils to God. And the Abishur heard to the voice of the Jews, and they delivered them the Canaanites. He destroyed them and they consecrated their cities. And they call that place Charmel. Execution. They consecrated to the city, they consecrated to God. And they traveled from the mountains, through the Red Sea. Eretz Edom, to circle the land of Edom. And the people became disheartened because of the way. Now she says, Kinsaran had died, and this war had come upon them. They turned back to the Red Sea route, which is the route they returned to after the decree, because of the sin of the spies that had been issued against them. As it says, the journey from the desert by the way of the Red Sea. Here they went back 7 stations. As it says, the children of Israel journeyed from the well of Bnei Yakon to Meseda, and there Aaron died. That's later on. Did he really die in Meseda? He did not die on Mount Har. However, there in Meseda, they again mourned for him and eulogized him. As they died in their presence, go study the stations, you'll find that there were 7 stations from Meseda and Har. So they basically went back 7 stops. Because we know since they were not allowed to pass the land of Edom, because of the hardships of traveling, which was hard on them. They said, now we're so close to entering the land and we're turning back. So did our fathers turn back and remain for 38 years until today. Therefore, they came disheartened by the hardships of travel, because they're right over there, but they couldn't go through Edom. So they had to go back a little bit. It's, however, incorrect to say that the people became disheartened, meaning while on the way, without explaining that caused them to become disheartened. The word nefesh kitzer, literally shorten of spirit, is mentioned in Torah. The cause of the discouragement is specified, as in, I could not tolerate them. As it says, he was distressed because of the misery. Anything difficult for a person to bear is called tzur nefesh, like a person who's beset with troubles, and his mind is not composed enough to accept it. There are no place in his heart for the distress to settle. The things causing the distress is described as large, since it's too large for him, it weighs too heavily upon him. And the soul, as we see, it says, the chaya, and his soul was loth me. There was too much for me. So that's me, but tikta nefesh, it was too hard. Daba Elikim with Moshe, and the people started talking against God and Moshe. Why'd you take us out of Egypt? Lamas b'midbar, to die in the desert. Ein lon lecha, we have no bread. V'mayim, we have no food, water. Rashenu kotza b'lechem akalkel. And we are disgusted with this rotten bread. Now she says they equated the servant with the master, Moshe Rabbeinu, and God, put him in the same basket. Lama lisnanu, shem shem eloy, both of you, God and Moshe. And Hashenu Kotza, this denotes intolerance and loathing. B'lechem akalkal, since the man was absorbed in the limbs, and they didn't have any bowel movements, they called it rotten. They said the man will eventually swell up in our stomachs. Is there anything mortal? Is there anything that a mortal human being digests and doesn't come out? This is like crazy. Abish sent a bunch of venomous snakes into the camp. And they started to bite the people. And many people started to die. Now she says, Burning snakes, so named because they burn a person with venom. Let the snake, what's smitten for speaking evil to Eve, come and punish those who speak slander about the man. Let the snake, for which all types of food taste the same, come and punish those who are show the opposite of gratitude, for whom in one thing the man changes into various tastes, and they're complaining that they're sick of the man. Verse number 7, and the people came to Moshe and they said, we have sinned. But divine we spoke against God, Ubach and you. Please pray to God. And get rid of the snake. Moshe prayed. Now she says, from here we learn that if somebody comes and asks you to forgive, you should never be cruel and say, enough is enough. You should always forgive. God said to Moshe, make a serpent. And put it on a pole. Whoever was bitten should look upon the snake, this pole, and he will survive. Now she says that the nace is a pole. Even if a dog or a donkey bit him, he would suffer injury and steadily deteriorate. But a snake bite would kill quickly. That is why it says regarding the other bites, will look at you a mere glance. But regarding the snake, it says he would gaze. Wherever a snake bit a man, he would gaze. For the snake bite would not heal unless one gazed at the copper intentionally. Our rabbi said, does a snake cause death or life? However, when Israel look upwards, heavenward, that means, if you look upwards to heaven and subjected his heart to his Father in heaven, they would be healed. If not, they would waste away. Moshe made this snake out of copper. He put it on a pole. If a person bit a person, if a snake bit a person, he gazed upon the snake, and he lived. Nash says he was not told to make it out of copper. Why did he make it out of copper? Moshe Ben said, the Holy One, blessed be He, called it a nachash. So I'll make it out of nachoshes, because nachash is the root word of nachoshes, which is copper, and that's why he made it out of copper. And that completes the Chumash for today. Continue the Tanya. We're in the middle of chapter 10 in Shar HaYichud Ve'emunah. We're holding. Dr. Rebbe continues and explains Bechlal, the analogy. The analogy of the sun, Ur HaShemesh, even though it's not the total reality, the analogy doesn't fit God exactly. But nevertheless, we give this nevertheless, despite the superior manner of this unity, Shak and Ezon, since must Madala for the ear, he needs to be able to hear something, because you cannot talk to a person if you cannot hear. So therefore, the Eibush talks in a way that Taylor talks in a way that we can have some kind of hearing. And so you'll be able to perceive and comprehend. That's like the analogy of the light of the sun. We know that the light of the sun, the light that gives everybody everything in this world, it's wonderful, but it's bottled in the sun. Bottled the light of the sun is bottled in the sun, is nullified in the sun. When it's in the sun, this light has no name, because it becomes part of the sun. It's called the sun. The sun has unbelievable light, but the sun is the sun. In the sun, there's nothing but the sun. So that's the analogy. Go to when it comes to the attributes of God. Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevurah, all these attributes. They're called the ray of the sun, the ray of God. They also in God, Ein Sof, Kadosh Baruch Hu. By the Eibishter, you don't have names. They say to the Eibishter, Ata, you, whoever you are, you, above all names and expressions. Al-Lagab and Evrahim, it's only in relationship to the creation, which are noted by the Rebbe below the world of Atzilus. Bri Yitzir Asiyah, these creatures being Al-Yoinim v'Tarteinim, both higher and lower. Shaviyosam v'Chayosim and Negosim, which are brought in existence and given life and guided. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mahav Machayis Manigam, which are guided and conducted by the Holy One, blessed be He. Through His will. So now we come to the will of God, the wisdom of God, the understanding of God, the knowledge of God, that garb themselves in the chesed of God, in the gvura of God, in the Tiferes, etc. So ultimately, to engage in Evrahim, engage in creation, we have names. Thus, the spheres are termed Chachma, Bin, and Das, Chesed, and so forth, in relation to the beings, Yesh, to us, which are created and reified by God through His will and His wisdom, and so forth, which clothe themselves in the emotive attributes. Yishem and Medrash, have in the Medrash, it says, the means of 10 things, the will was created. And it starts to count them, the 10 spheres. With wisdom, with understanding and knowledge. That says the verse. God founded the earth with wisdom. He established the heaven with understanding. And with knowledge, the depths of the abyss were burst open. So we thus see from the Medrash that the world was created by the means of 10 things, the 10 spheres. But the Eibishter selfless is above that. As Elijah the prophet says, when in the opening of Pasach Liyo, which is the Tikkun Hazeh, which we say every Friday, the Apikas Asa Tikkunin, because Allah Asa Sviris, brought about the 10 Tikkunin, the 10 garments, so to say, which you call 10 Sviris. Snagbu al Mesitoin, through which to direct the hidden worlds unrevealed, meaning worlds that transcend mortal comprehension. The the worlds are revealed, and the hidden and the revealed worlds. The worlds are accessible to mortal comprehension. And through them you conceal yourself. And the created beings will be able to perceive the divine life force that create and veify them. That's the way that's the way we have the concept. In essence, there is a concept of godliness that's above any aspect of comprehension and understanding and self-understood. There is the way that ultimately Eibishter comes in, is like this ray of the sun and the sun. Today is the 5th day of the month, which is chapter 29 to chapter 34. I invite everybody in Mitzvah at 10 a.m. We have a class, Sikh of the Rebbe week, either at Chabad or on Zoom, or direct. I wish you all a good day, and we'll see you in Mitzvah tomorrow. 8 o'clock in Mitzvah, we'll continue the Chitas of the day.